Okay, I guess we can go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Steps to Becoming Your Own Boss, an event to celebrate Black entrepreneurship. From Madam CJ Walker to Robert and Sheila Johnson to Michael Jordan and Oprah Winfrey, and many more Black entrepreneurs have been growing and inspiring each other around the world. And we thank you for joining us today. Um, I hope you gain necessary skills and knowledge to start your own successful business. And my name is Alexandra Webster. And with us today, we also have some more entrepreneurs here.
I'm Davin Gentry, fashion designer of a couple of clothing lines and I guess fashion consultant.
Erwin Reeves, FDIC. I'm in the community affairs portion of the FDIC, and we do depositor and consumer protection.
Hi, greetings. I'm Denise Thomas. I'm the owner of Let's Move Fitness, and I am also the executive director of Healthy Moves, a local nonprofit.
Hi everyone. I was like, what time do I have to go? I was freaking out. We just did a shoot today, so I've been like literally going nonstop. But I'm Natalia. I'm the owner and founder of Body Love by Tal, and it's Alexa, right? Is Alexa? She invited me to this, and I'm very blessed and honored. To be honest with you, like, so I have somebody that does my emails and my social media stuff, and so they were like, you have a meeting, with the University of Oregon. I was like, what? Like, I was freaking out. So I'm super excited to be here, and I really appreciate you guys thinking about me.
All right. Well, first of all, I would just like to say thank you all for taking part in this event, and I am going to pass it off to Alexa.
Hi, guys. Again, I'm so excited to be hosting this event. I was going to let you guys know I started my business this year during quarantine. Well, not this year, so 2020, not 2021. It's a vintage store, it's online. And we also just opened up a real store in the Woodlands Mall. That's located in Houston, Texas. So that's where I'm from. When I first started, I doubted myself a little bit and the business because it wasn't going the way I wanted to at first, but that always happens. But as an entrepreneur, like I learned that I need to start putting more time and a lot more money into my business to get it off the ground. And once I started putting in that work, it definitely pays off and it's worth it right now. So I'd also like you all. Oh yeah, you guys already met some other entrepreneurs that we have with us today, but that's just a little bit about me. It's called Approach Vintage, so you guys could check it out.
All right. I've got to take a second to do our land acknowledgement before I pass it back to Alexandra. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. All right, so here's the territorial land acknowledgement for the University of Oregon. We typically read this at the beginning of our events on campus to acknowledge the past and the land that the University of Oregon is located on. The University of Oregon is located on Kalapuya Ilihi, the traditional indigenous homeland of the Kalapuya people. Following treaties between 1851 and 1855, Kalapuya people were dispossessed of their indigenous homeland by the US government and forcibly removed to the Coast Reservation in Western Oregon. Today, Kalapuya descendants are primarily citizens of the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde and the Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians, and they continue to make important contributions to their communities, to the U of O, to Oregon, and to the world. In following the Indigenous Protocol of acknowledging the original people of the land we occupy, we also extend our respect to the 9 federally recognized Indigenous nations of Oregon: the Burns Paiute Tribe, the Confederated Tribes of the Coos, Lower Umpqua, and Sialaw Indians, the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde, the Confederated Tribes of the Siletz Indians, the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation, the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs, the Coquille Indian Tribe, the Cow Creek Band of Umpqua, Tribe of Indians, and the Klamath Tribes. We express our respect to the many more tribes who have ancestral connections to this territory, as well as to all other displaced indigenous peoples who call Oregon home.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and introduce Mr. Reeves. He works for the FDIC, which is the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. And I suggest you guys get out something to take notes, a notepad, iPhone notes, whatever, because he's gonna have some really good information for people that want to start up their business. And yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and bring him into, and he's gonna take over.
Thanks.
Okay. So first question that I want you just to go over for everybody, how important is the planning process for a business?
It's really the only way to survive. And I'll just not throw a question back to you, but if you think about your process in starting your business, you had to think through a lot of things, probably like you've never thought through before. That entire process is planning. It is important to write it down, but even the thoughts that you're putting together. So there are 4 different basic types of planning. And some of this material that I'm providing to you today is available at the FDIC.gov. I believe they're going to drop a link in the chat later on. And it's a part of the Money Smart program. And so it's designed to teach, but there's a small business component and there's a participant guide. And I would just recommend that you look at that to get some ideas if you're thinking about starting a business. In this particular instance, 4 different types of business plans, kind of a back of the napkin, just write out your thoughts, getting something down, brainstorming. But you also want to have a resource plan. You want to think about what it's going to cost you to either set up your business, run your business, and sustain your business. Because why would you start a business if you don't want it to survive? So they're going to be all those components. And do you need to finance that? Alexa mentioned that she started a clothing store. So that means that she had to purchase inventory. That means that that had to be bought. And how do you buy that? Is it with credit? Is it with cash? Is it something you can barter for? And then how will you manage a healthy business? And so if you think about it kind of in those different 4 components, it'll get you to the perspective that you'll at least be able to articulate your thoughts, which means you'll be able to start working on implementing your plan. I know that was a long answer, but.
Oh, no, that's good. Okay, next question. What are some financial resources for a startup business, and how can a new business keep track of its finances?
So I'm going to answer that in reverse. Okay. Regardless of what type of business that you have to track your expenses. And you need to be able to do that on a regular basis. It can be an Excel spreadsheet. It can also be specific accounting software. You know, you hear people talk about Quicken, and there are a number of versions of financial tracking methods. It could be by hand. It could be just on pencil and paper. But you need to know how much your expenses are in order to know how much money you're making. And if not, you're just spinning your wheels, and ultimately you're not going to be able to be successful. I think it's important that as an owner, you recognize, and this was one of the questions that came up, that it's not just you. You may be great at the task or the service or the product that you're providing, but you also need to have either people or methods in place to help support you in that endeavor. And typically that's somebody that's going to serve as a bookkeeper. As you start your business, you'll be able to do that for a while. But think about the retail business. You're going to be the buyer for the merchandise. You're going to be the bookkeeper for the ins and outs, including the cashier. Somebody's got to do that. You need an insurance agent. If you have inventory, you need to protect it. And the way to do that is insurance. And then you need to have someone around that knows something about law. When you're just starting out, those things are expensive. And so you'll have to find ways to do with as little as you can, but you can get access to resources through the small business development centers. They are a network of national, I call them technical assistance providers. and they're providing technical assistance for small businesses. So people that are interested in starting small businesses. And so that's one way that you can access some resource. In Oregon, they have a very strong network. There's usually some either municipal, meaning county or city, or they have an affiliation with some of the community, most of the community colleges in Oregon. And so that's a good way to get access to a lot of knowledge. And then again, pushing back to the Money Smart for Small Business curriculum, that has a variety of resources listed within it that also talk about funding and financing. But it's most important to understand, and that's something that the Small Business Development Center can help you with, is what kind of accounting system do you need based on the type of business that you have. So if your business is online retail sales, you're not going to be able to track all of that by hand. You're going to have to get something that's going to be more electronic. On the other side, if your business is a little bit more kind of physical in labor, it might be landscaping, it might be really working with soil or hay or providing feed, you might be able to do some of that for a period of time by hand, but you're not going to be able to grow your business to scale at that level. So the SBDC can help you with that.
Okay, cool. Okay, I have another question. What business structure should I choose or start out with?
That is a very good question, but it's also very complicated. And I'm going to use you as an example because you actually have a storefront. And so if you as an individual are providing, I'm going to come back to you, but if you as an individual are providing services, it may make sense for you to operate as a sole proprietor for a period of time, because you just kind of want to get acclimated. You and your business are the same. And for most small businesses, the entrepreneur, person that is the kind of the creative thinker around that, you are like your business. So if you're not good at managing money, you need to find somebody that's going to help you manage money. But that creates liability. Mm-hmm. And so back to you, Alexis, when you have it's a store. So you have people that are coming into the store to buy your product. That opens you up for additional potential liability if somebody gets hurt there. You're more than likely going to have more workers. And so being a sole proprietor, it is possible to do it, but you run a fair amount of risk from that standpoint. And so as you start to move into physical locations, it makes sense to look at being either a partnership or a corporation. Mm-hmm. And just really quickly, partnerships, it's unless stated within a document, it's equal cost, equal value, equal equity. And so everybody has the same percentage unless you say, let's say, Gilbert, Alexis, and I are running a business and we start off, we're immediately going to just say we're splitting it in a third, and just leave that 1% out there. Or we could say, Alexis could say, no, it's my idea. I would like you guys to give me some capital. I need 50%, and you guys can fight over the other 50%. That's perfectly fine. But we also then she also has the most liability at that point as well. So if somebody comes and says, hey, y'all didn't pay for this, it's time to cash up. She pays 50%, I pay 20%, Gilbert pays 25%, excuse me. And then you get to a corporation. And a corporation gives kind of the same structure, but what happens is there's less liability for us as individuals because the corporation owns the business. And because the corporation owns the business, someone can sue the corporation, but you have limited liability at that standpoint. Unless you do something horribly wrong, then they'll still come after you. The corporation then bears the brunt of the liability. There's also something called an LLC. It's a limited liability corporation that operates very much like a corporation. It too has its own set of documents, and each of these structures, with the exception of a sole proprietor, they have to have documentation. You can have a verbal partnership, but I wouldn't advise it. I would never advise you to do that. And then the corporation, and then the LLC. And the LLC can be member-owned or member-managed. And so, or excuse me, manager managed or member managed. And so what you have is then the manager takes on a lot of responsibility. That could also be the owner. You could be the main member, but you don't have to meet as often. And there's some other benefits from that standpoint. So starting out, a sole proprietorship is one way to do it. If you're going to do a partnership, it can get messy. Make sure you document it. And then the least is the last is a corporation. And a corporation costs, you have to have filing papers with the state. You have to do that on a regular basis. You have to have a board of directors. They don't necessarily have to be paid a lot of money, but you do have to have them in place, and there have to be meetings. So there's more structure as you go up that continuum as the responsibilities that fit within that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think this is my last question. How do I minimize my risks as an owner of a business?
That's a loaded question because you don't always know all of your risks depending on the type of business that you're in.
Yeah.
So your insurance helps to take care of some of that, but there are small things, and I'm saying small things and I'm being sarcastic. Having good partners, having people that you can work on and rely on, building strong vendor relationships, and identifying early if you can establish and maintain a strong relationship. Because I'm going to shift a little bit from you and go to kind of a manufacturing model for a second. If I'm trying to build Veridesk, the stand-up desk, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to be their competitor because my design's better, and then I start trying to get my materials in, for you it would be inventory, and then I sign this agreement, and it's an exclusive agreement with the supplier, and then they stop getting me my material, and I don't have a backup for that, I'm in trouble. So you want to make sure that you provide yourself the opportunity to be successful by being flexible, but also being stern and making sure that your partnerships are strong. The same thing goes with employees. Love family. I'm not hiring my cousin. I got two of them. I won't hire them for nothing. And I've hired them in the past, and I regretted it. The same thing goes with your business. And love your family. If some families can work together well, and it's a family business, but there's always a challenge there. So the more things you have documented versus just saying, oh, we're going to do it this way, document it and stick to your documents. And that way you can minimize that risk and that exposure. Because the reality is, when you're starting up your business, your first source of funding is friends and family. The bank's not going to fund you. A few community development financial institutions might, and those are organizations that give loans to businesses. And you can learn about this at the Small Business Development Center. They can talk to you about these kind of things. In Oregon, there's Craft 3, there's Northwest Development, and Micro Enterprise Services of Portland. Those are the 3 active CDFIs in Oregon. They can help you as well. But the reality is most small businesses start up with money from friends and family. They run out of their money. They start getting their stuff done. People like their stuff, and that's where you raise your money. You want those to be formal agreements, and that helps minimize your risk. And so by doing that, by documenting what you're doing, by writing out a plan, again, it doesn't have to be 900 pages. When I was a banker, I used to have people come in and give me a 200-page business plan. I take it from them, and I learned, as I got older, I take the business plan, and I'm like, I'll look at it. And then I'd sit down and set up a meeting with them. And I ask them what is on page 56. And it's about their finances and what they're supposed, oh, the consultant did that. Don't give me a business plan if you don't know what you're going to do. You write the business plan. Nobody can write your business plan. You have to painstakingly go through that process in order to build up it's your business. You're the one that's going to make the money. You should be able to help figure out how to make it drive. Your vendor, your experts, your insurance company, your accountant, your lawyer, they help you refine what you're doing so that you can stay within the laws, make money, and stay out of trouble with the IRS, because you want to do that. But you have to really go through that process. So I would say to be successful and minimize your risk, you're writing out a plan, you're documenting your relationships and partnerships with your vendors, your employees, investors, And then pay attention to your bottom line. You will not be able to take a vacation for a long time. It's you. And so you want to build up on that. But make sure you're building in some time so that you can have your development and rest too. As a business owner, you're going to need some time to think about stuff. So it's not just running in sales. You also have to manage your time very well to help minimize your risk.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now let's look back at that Kahoot game and let's do some explaining with some of these questions. So the first one I see is you do not need a big cash reserve to be successful. And you kind of touched on a little bit how we can get some help from the Small Business Administration. So I'm gonna let you explain. So.
Yes. Did you want me to go? Wait, say that again. I couldn't hear you.
Oh, my bad. Explain why you do not need a big cash reserve to be successful.
So let's say you're going to do t-shirts. You've got your ideas, you've got the design. You can probably get started with 200 or 300, do a couple of shirts, make some money, reinvest that money back again, and make sure you make this where you have to keep track of your expenses so that you can make a profit. And instead of trying to take the profit and run, you put it back in the business. So you're kind of funding yourself. And then that's called bootstrapping. It's the concept that the business is starting with low cost and then is elevating itself by putting funds back into the business in order to help it build up, basically to build up equity. So that you use a surplus that you make to build up equity, to make the business stronger, and build assets within the business. Let's flip that back to you. You're starting a retail business. You need furniture and fixtures. You need inventory, and you need equipment. You need registers. You need pricing machines. You need the pricing tape. So all of those things come in. That requires a little bit more of an investment. Depending on the size of your store and the size of your inventory, it could be anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000. That's just to kind of get it in place and getting it running. Then you have your employees. And so they're not going to work for free. When the end of the week comes, that first week you're just getting started, your sales are going to be low and you're still going to have those expenses. And those expenses, as long as you keep that store open, are going to stay in place. So now you're talking about your rent. You're talking about the utilities. And depending on how it's set up, whether you have, most of the time you're going to have a restroom, so you're going to have full utilities. And then if you want it to be a boutique, a little nicer place, so that requires you to put some more money into it so it gets painted so it looks a certain way, so that you have your window displays a certain way. All of those things cost money. So then all of a sudden, instead of that $15,000, you're up to $25,000 or $30,000 for you to operate for that month. And that might be how much it costs you to operate for 3 or 4 months. If you don't have enough revenue for that, then you're going to need some investors to help you basically support the business and you should, that's a reality. I'm kind of speaking about it sarcastically, but the reality is there's a period of time where people are going to have to learn about your business and then learn to trust you as a business person before you. Just because it's a great idea and it looks great doesn't mean that people are going to support it. So you're going to have to find a way to do that as you market your business and build it up.
Okay. All right. So another one was you will not have a boss. I was that one. I was like, wait, I'm pretty sure I'm my own boss, but.
So you make all the decisions as it relates to the inventory. You make all the decisions as it relates to who's going to work what time and where you're going to be located. You make most of the decisions as it relates to how you use your time. Most of. Because now the business is your boss. Your customers are your boss.
Oh, okay.
And in reality, your employees are your boss. Because if they're not there, who has to go to work?
Oh.
You do.
Yeah.
So again, now you can put it in, if it's a service business, it's really you and the customer then. Let's say somebody's an attorney. They start a firm. They are doing well, they're building clientele, but you have to put the hours in to do that. If you hire a couple of people underneath you, you still have to train them.
Mhm.
You still have to get them to the same level that you are and expect them to perform at, and that takes your time. So, and just this is like a little flashback. I'm thinking back from when I was like, a child. My parents would put me on punishment because I didn't do something. They're punishing themselves. They can't do nothing either. They got to say who's going. One of them can lead a house, but the other one can't, and then that's not going to work. And so you're always tied to your customer and that customer satisfaction piece at all times as a business owner. I mean, I don't know how many YouTube videos I've watched where people are losing their minds and they want to call the regional manager and speak to the district director. When it's your business, that's you. You're on all the time. And who are you catering to? You're catering to your customers. Yes, you can dictate, this is what I want my customer to be. This is what I want them to look like, what I want them to sound like. But you can't stop who comes to your door. And so you have to build up that clientele and make that happen.
Mhm.
If you're a corporation, it's going to be the other people in the corporation that are going to be, you're going to each be your bosses. So you got to learn how to work together. The same thing with a partnership. Everybody wants to be the boss, but you should be what's called a humble servant. And by doing that as a manager of people, you will build loyalty and faithfulness for your business because you don't want people ripping you off. And one way to do that is to treat people well. So don't perceive you're the boss. I make the decisions. I'm in charge. It works for a little while.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and bring out our entrepreneurs. We're just gonna ask them like a few questions. We want to know about you all's story and how did you start your business and all of that. So I'll have Imani ask you guys some questions, Q&A kind of thing.
Cool. So this isn't in no particular order. So our entrepreneurs, go ahead and whoever jumps in first, you can go first. So our first question is going to be, how did you get your idea or concept for your business?
I guess I'll start. I'm Denise Thomas, owner of Let's Move Fitness, and that's my personal business, right? The nonprofit came years later. I got my business. I am a University of a grad, class of '85 in dance. Went from sports to dance. Transferred to the University of Oregon, got my dance degree, then moved to Manhattan, New York, studied at the Alvin Ailey School of Dance. And long story short, because of my athletic career and then my dancing career, found my way into fitness and was found fortunate, one of those literally New York stories, right place, right time. Started working for High Powered Fitness Studio and doing commercial work. And I mean, there's stuff I can tell. I'm way older than some of y'all, but I'll just make it short. Had very good opportunities. And then I got injured, being an athlete and then in dancing, literally taking any place from, I don't know, teaching and taking 13, 18 classes a week. And then the big thing when you go to New York City, if you're trying to make it in the arts world, the dance world, the music world, all that kind of stuff, you got to be a waitress. You got to work at night. And I didn't have that complete opportunity at first. So by the time I got to the fitness studio, making the transition from dancing and singing back up and commercial work into fitness, it was like I needed a big break. And I got that break working for a High Powered Studio. And then opportunities rose from there, but then I got injured. And that, being an athlete and a dancer, someone introduced me to the Alexander technique, and it changed my whole world about what was happening in the fitness world in the late 80s, the early 90s. It literally, I thought, what are we doing to people? We're killing them. We aren't strengthening them. We're literally killing them, these little bodies and muscle bound people. And when I had my first Alexander technique teacher lesson, and then I went for my second lesson, I literally cried when I got done with that session because I'm an athlete, I'm a dancer, and it was like, that's when I thought, you know what, I got to move away from these classes with 80 and 100 people in them, teaching funk aerobics, step aerobics came along. I found I just became a little bit of a rebel. And thought, this is how the body works. This is what's supposed to happen with the body. And when I left this studio, I was shocked. 30, and I don't know if you heard of Crunch Fitness. I helped start Crunch Fitness. It was started in Manhattan on the west side on Hudson, and then he moved it, Doug Levin moved it down to the East Village. And then all of a sudden I realized he knew nothing about the body. He knew that about fitness. This is about business. They were all about business. I was about body. How do people get people to understand their mental, their internal, their longevity? And so I came up with Let's Move. I left the studios, and when I left Crunch, people followed me, and I just, and in the city found a loft space. And literally, this was a great listening to Mr. Reeves talk, because it was like business plan. I want people to move. I want people to be healthy. Write it down. And back then, someone said, how do you start your business? If you get a name, write it on a piece of paper and mail it to yourself. That's what I did, because that's what I was told. And then I got really educated, fortunately, because my first attorney accountant, when I thought I was going to hire a bookkeeper, I'm going to hire this person because I thought I was going to have a big business. And she looked at me and said, no, you're not. Your first 2 years, you're going to do your own bookkeeping. You're going to do your own, because you need to know who your clients are. You need to know where your money's coming from. You need to know your expenses. And I tell you, Miss Arlene King Robinson, thank you. To this day, I have a file in my head. I mean, now I have a bookkeeper and accountant and all that stuff, but I know where my shit's coming from. I know. And Mr. Ruth, when he was going down, I was like, yep. The name, what's your business plan? I wrote it all out. This was 19, I started my business. I got to New York City in 1988. I started my business in Manhattan, New York, left these studios, founded a loft space, worked in the space, and never had to do any promotion, never did any advertising. It was all word of mouth. So that little bit, that's how that, yeah. And just to tag on it, your boss is your, I love him explaining that too. You're your own boss. Yeah, you're working all the time. It's great though. And just to add to this, find what you love, that you want to do with a partner, by yourself, expand it, but find something that you really enjoy and it's yours. That's to me, that's it. I want people to live, to enjoy moving, be healthy. I work with kids, I work with adults, I work with people with physical challenges. Find what you love and what you love. Don't let anybody else tell you anything else. It's what you love. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. Which one of our entrepreneurs wants to go next, Davin or Natalia?
Let me go. You just gave me so much life. First of all, Miss Denise, Miss Thomas, I love your energy. And I want to what's the Alexander method? I think I need to learn that. Sounds good. And if we can put their Instagram, I would love to follow everybody after this as well. That would be great. But I'm the owner and founder of Body Love by Tal, and we handcraft organic, vegan, all natural and cruelty-free body products. And so how did I get started? So I was a D1 athlete at the University of Northern Colorado, and I played volleyball. And my junior year, I ended up getting pregnant with my son, Eli. And little did I know he was literally the biggest blessing to me. And I would say the reason Body Love by Tal is even a thing. But anyway, I have been making my own products since high school, but I only made them for me and I knew what worked for me. But as far as when you have a baby, it's kind of scary to, use things that aren't just for babies. I didn't educate myself enough. And so we had our baby shower and I got all of this free stuff for him, and he broke out bad. Like, I was using Johnson & Johnson, like everything, like his skin was awful. I was freaking out. He would cry at night. He just was constantly itching. And mind you, like even though I got pregnant in college, I worked out every single day. I gray shirted. And after I had him, I went back and started. So, I had a crying, itchy baby, and I was in school full time. And, I was just like, I did my research. So instead of doing my schoolwork, I would study, like holistic healing through food and products. And so I started making his baby wipes, his butt cream, his body butter, his soap. I made everything from the beginning to the end. And then I also made his baby food, and I made, I steamed the fruits and vegetables, and I would just blend them, and his skin went from just inflamed to like perfect, like the, baby skin, the soft baby skin, whatever. So that alone gave me the okay, like I'm doing something. I did that, you know what I'm saying? And so I was like, oh, this is cool. And all of my friends would always come over and want to chill with Eli. And so I would be making stuff. They're like, let me try it. And so through that, people really started like liking my stuff. And then I started making products for my teachers and my teammates, and they saw like huge improvements. So fast forward, I graduated and I had no idea what I wanted to do. I applied for over 50 jobs and I got maybe one interview. And the one interview I had was very eye-opening. And he said, and I was major in communication, minor in business. And I applied for an insurance company and I got the interview. And he's like, so what do you want to do with your life? And I had already researched him. And so I tailored the question to appease him. And he like stopped me dead in my tracks. And he was like, that's not what I asked you. And you're not being real with me. He was like, and that's not going to get you anywhere in life. And I was just like, oh, cause like when we were in college, they teach us to really like form the answers to the business that you want to work with. I mean, I didn't want to be a freaking insurance agent. I knew that, but I needed a job and I had a kid and I was living with my parents and I needed to get out. And so I'm a spiritual person. And so I would pray a lot and just, ask like God to open opportunities for me. And I have an amazing mom. She set a beautiful foundation. She was always there for me and my son, but basically she had started a juicing business, and they had asked her to have her product in the store. And she had ended up not wanting to do it. And she's like, well, my daughter makes products. And mind you, I have no business. I don't do this for I did it for family. I made stuff for family and friends, but it wasn't something that I did, on a consistent basis. And so again, Eli was maybe 4, 5, 6 months, and I was breastfeeding, and you know how that goes as a mom, you're up all night, but my mom helped me turn around a business in 2 months. And so I was in a store maybe 6 months after I graduated, and it took off for me after that. I had a soft opening with my friends and family, and then the second day was the grand opening. And I was one of the first grandchildren to graduate, so I made a lot of money, and it was a big celebration. And every single penny that I made from that, I gave back into my business. And that's what I started with. So I think I made maybe they gave in all $7,000, and I put every single penny into that. And to have my store, it was like maybe $12,000. And my parents were lovely enough, and they gifted me with the rest. And so I was in the store, it started going south. Crackheads would come in there, steal my stuff. And my friends are here, she's cracking up, but it was awful. It was great, and it turned to straight crap. And so Body Love by Tao was put on pause for a little bit. I was making no money, no online sales. So I started nannying, and then I got a job in Denver, but I still hustled through it. I was still making product. People were coming to my house buying stuff. And then, I just had to have a come to Jesus moment with myself. And I was like, I'm tired of living with my parents. I have my son, feel like I'm a burden. So I'm just going to hustle. Whatever that looks like, I'm just going to do it. So I was nannying, had another job. Then I was giving out free products to some friends, and I was like, can you please document your process? So I got this beautiful before and after picture, and this one particular person was having acne issues, but she knew a lot of people. So like whatever she'd said, you know, held weight. And so I had posted her before and after, and it kind of blew up. Like I had maybe 10 people reach out to me. And then again, like social media is so powerful. I make my money from social media. And so to keep it, you know, not long-winded, the before and afters and my results really got me from this point till now. And so now at this point, I work from my basement. I bought a house with my son, still just me and him. And yeah, I make products every day. I'm always, you know, in my basement whipping something up, and we do photo shoots at my house. We're able to do so much stuff. So I hope I answered the question of like how I got started. It could go on and on because there's so many things in that, but yeah, you guys.
Thank you so much for sharing, Natalia. Obviously, I've known you since high school. So I've seen your journey over the years, and it's definitely super inspiring. So thank you again for sharing. So Davin, go ahead and share again kind of how you got your idea and concept for your business for us.
Okay, mine's a pretty long story as well, because the business that I'm currently running, Diet Starts Monday, is like my 6th business. And so there's so many like steps along the way that got me to this idea. But I mean, I first started in 2005 when I was in college at Western Kentucky with Gil, and I was painting shirts. And I was really just painting shirts for myself because where I'm from, like, we don't have a lot of stores to shop at and buy the clothes that you want. So the only way to dress the way I wanted to dress was to make the clothes myself. So I started painting shirts for myself, and really quickly it just caught on campus, and this person wanted it, and this fraternity wanted it, and this sorority, and it really just kind of steamrolled into just kind of like me being this person on campus that you could go to for your shirts for whatever, a party or a basketball game or whatever. And at the same time, I was in school for advertising. And so I'm painting these shirts, and it's really taking up like my whole day. I'm skipping class, not even going to class. I'm painting shirts. And it's decent money, but as I'm in school for advertising, I'm also taking graphic design classes, and I realized I could put this same work into creating something digitally and then print that 100 times over in the same amount of time that it took me to paint one shirt. So me doing that, I kind of started to understand the concept of mass production and at least producing on a larger scale. And so I still painted shirts here and there, but I really started to get more into the graphic design stuff. And around, I mean, I made that part sound really, really quick and short, but it was like a 6-year span of me painting shirts. But around 2011, I kind of shifted off into custom jewelry. And I had a client of mine who was like, hey, I'm interested in doing this type of jewelry as well. Do you think we could team up and see what we can come up with? And so we partnered up in 2011 and started the brand Premium Co. And Premium Co is really like the foundation for everything that I have now. And everything that I learned for Diet Starts Monday came from Premium Co. And so Premium Co started as a jewelry company. We were making gemstone bracelets, and then we got into creating our own molds and making necklaces with Jesus pendants and angels and rings and you name it. And so this took off really quickly as well. I think because we were just able to execute in a way that looked really professional. Like, one thing that I've always stood by is just like regardless if it's me making it in my bedroom or whatever, like it has to look like the same type of quality that you would get if you walked into Barney's or Saks or Neiman's or any high fashion retailer. So I think because we were able to execute, and I did have the graphic design experience to edit photos and make them look a certain way, it really picked up quick. But so we did jewelry for around 3 years before I really just kind of like had the itch to get back into fashion. And so around 2013, I just started toying with ideas and promoting them on Instagram just to see if our audience would even support clothing. I mean, because like I said, we were jewelry. I didn't know if the customers even wanted that from us, but I mean, to our surprise, they did. And this was around the same time when like basic t-shirts were really like becoming popular, but not just like a normal white t-shirt, like a really nice French terry or like a really nice cotton shirt. And so I wanted to do a shirt that just had this specific look to it. And we put some money to the side from the jewelry and we made about 300 shirts, and the shirts were $62. So it wasn't a cheap t-shirt. And we made the 300 shirts thinking that would kind of last us for the summer. Like we'll probably sell a couple each day and we'll sell out after 2 or 3 months. And so we released the shirts and they sold out in probably like 10 minutes. And so then from then we were like, okay, like everybody that wanted the shirts probably purchased it on that release. So we'll make another 300 and for sure this time it'll last. And this next release sold out in probably like 3 minutes. And so like really quickly, we realized that like our audience really supported the fashion and all of the clothing. And so we tried to juggle both. We tried to juggle jewelry and clothing, but it was just too hard, and we didn't really have the infrastructure that we needed to move the way that we wanted to. So we put jewelry on the back burner and just focused on where the biggest profit margin was, and that was in the clothing. And so from 2013 really until 2017, Premium had shifted to a full-blown clothing line, and we started visiting trade shows and networking and trying to get in touch with buyers for retailers. And at first we really couldn't even get into the trade shows. It was kind of a scene that like if you weren't exhibiting, they didn't want you there. And so the first 2 or 3 trade shows, we literally had to sneak in. And then eventually we were able to afford a booth to exhibit, which was like $7,500 to exhibit. And so we exhibited at the trade show. You sit down with buyers, you show them your collection, and then they either pick up your brand or they don't. And we saw a lot of success really early on. And a few people have kind of touched on this topic or this point, but like if you don't have, like, you could be the most talented designer, have the best clothing, this and that, but if you don't have the team to really help you execute, it's all just going to fall apart. And that's kind of what happened with us. Is we would get orders, but we just didn't have either the funding to fulfill the orders or the team to fulfill just shipping the orders, or there were tons of issues along the way. But around late 2016, I had a friend of mine who he wanted to start a clothing line, and he has a pretty big Instagram following. And so we were trying to figure out if I would be like a co-face of the brand or if I would just be behind the scenes, because I had Premium Co, and which was still successful at the time. And it was hard for me to figure out, like, do I jump into this other brand and kind of see how it affects Premium Co, or do I just decline the offer? But if I decline, like, it's a really good opportunity, not only to to jump into a brand that has a larger platform, but it also boosts my personal platform, which in turn boosts Premium's audience. And so I decided to do it and join on as a co-face of the brand. And we had kind of spoken about doing a brand together for probably 2 or 3 years, and we kept putting it off. And so whenever we finally got serious about this one, we had to figure out a name for the brand. And we knew instantly that the brand had to be something that was based on procrastination. And the one thing that people procrastinate with the most is dieting or working out. And so that's where Diet Starts Monday came from us kind of procrastinating and putting this brand off for so long. Diet Starts Monday was the perfect phrase for us. And then once we got into the brand and started figuring out like what our story would be, we really based it off of like, start your idea today, put your ideas in motion today, because tomorrow's not promised. We kept putting this idea off, and luckily, I mean, God forbid nothing happened, but something could have happened that could have prevented us from starting. And so that's kind of our whole mantra is Monday may not come, so putting things off until next week isn't in your best interest. Like, start today. And so that was 2017 when we started. We launched Diet Starts Monday with a restaurant and bar in DC. And it was supposed to just be a pop-up shop that we had a restaurant, a bar, and then our clothing. And it was supposed to be 3 months. And it was just so successful in DC that we couldn't close it after the 3 months. The landlords asked us to extend until the end of the year. So we kept it open till the end of the year. And then at the end of that year, they asked us to extend again to the end of the next year. And so we ended up keeping what was supposed to be this 3-month pop-up. We kept it open for probably I think it was around 18 or 19 months. And then eventually we decided to close it because it wasn't as profitable as our online sales. And it was taking away so much focus from what was making the brand money that it just was at a point to where we had to make a decision. Either we're going to put all of our focus into this restaurant, which I love food and I love to eat, but like restaurants I don't know anything about them other than partaking in the food. So we're kind of just in this space, like occupying it, but we're not utilizing it to our best ability because we don't know what we're doing in there. So we closed the space and just decided to just put full force into taking care of our customers online. And ever since then, we've had no overhead. We've just been strictly direct to consumer, and it's been amazing. And so we were direct to consumer, meaning we only sold directly to our consumers for the last 3 years until last week. We just started wholesaling to stores. And so we just shipped out orders to like 40 stores worldwide this week. So now we're juggling between direct to consumer and wholesale. But now I do have a team in place that's there to help me handle fulfillment and customer service and accountants and lawyers. And it's really now it's what we needed the whole time. We just weren't in a space to where we could have those things. And so now that we do, we're able to operate at a much higher level. But so that's where we are today.
Cool. Thank you for sharing. So at this time, we're going to go ahead and open up for questions from our attendees. So if y'all have any questions, feel free to drop it in the chat and I can read it out for you, or feel free to go ahead and unmute yourselves and ask away.
I have a question for Davin. You mentioned at the beginning, like, something about like, I think it was your jewelry business, then you made the other clothing one. And then you said that the other person that you decided to co-brand with, like be the face of, had a bigger audience, and then you had your audience. How did you like initially get your audience? Sorry, I don't know if that's worded very well, but
Yeah, I mean, in comparison to his, my audience is tiny. He has 600,000 something followers. I have under 8,000. I mean, I'm I'm probably the worst person to ask about social media, because the one thing that does work for me and building my audience is just uh, posting engaging content consistently. And that's something that I know that that works for me. But if you go on my Instagram, I haven't posted in 2 or 3 weeks. And so it's really, I'm terrible at it, just because I don't know, I'm so hands-on with working on the stuff that I kind of forget that I need to kind of document what's going on as well. And then I'll leave the factory and realize, like, oh, I should have taken a picture of this, or I should have done that. But I mean, that's what works for me is posting frequently, but also posting content that people are inclined to engage with and comment on and like and share. And so I kind of have, like, I guess, pillars of content that works for my brand and what people like to see. And that this is on a personal thing. I don't know if you meant a personal audience or the brand's audience. I guess those are two kind of separate things. But I mean, personally, I figured out what posts do well for me, which posts about, like, my apartment. People love to see, like, my apartment. I have a lot of plants, so everybody goes crazy over the plants. Anytime I post anything about that, those are like my highest engaged posts. So maybe I'm in the wrong. I may need to open a plant shop or something. I'm not sure, but that's the main thing, though, is consistency. And then you start to see, like, what people like the most. And not to say that you have to, like, cater it towards what people want to see, but in terms of, like, building your following, that's what has worked, is catering to that audience, so then they're more likely to share. And obviously more shares means more people are seeing your posts and more followers and so on.
Cool. So then one question we got in the chat was, what does being a Black entrepreneur mean to you?
It's an interesting question for me. I thought and a Black woman having my own business, and being self-employed, is really cool. In the beginning, it was really scary because you have these thoughts, am I going to make it? And you have these thoughts, do I have to reach out to partner with someone? And I was fortunate. And for me, I don't know if I said it, I never advertised in New York City. It was all word of mouth. And then when so that made me feel good, because it meant the folks liked the work that I was doing and they told people about. I mean, I was in Manhattan for 12 years, and then relocated back to Eugene and had an article in the Register Guard. And then I think I took an ad out on the bus once, but it's same thing. It's been all word of mouth. So that makes me really feel good as a Black person, that people, especially in Eugene, there's not a lot of Black folks. I mean, our community is growing, and I'm working on some really cool projects that are going to help promote our Black community, the Black history and health and wellness. That'll be launched at the NAACP Freedom Dinner on the 19th, Social Strides for Justice. So to be part of that project is really cool. I was, listening to the video and talking about families who had, businesses, and then when those businesses were no longer available, I think I don't know how to say it. I'm just really proud. And I know my father was really proud of what I did. And I know, because I'm one of 11 and I'm like oldest of the second set of kids. There's a 5-year gap between me. And then that's how we ended up in Oregon. So my family roots are Georgia. My dad was in the military. He got stationed to England. I was born in England, a younger sister. And then he got stationed to Baker, Oregon, Eastern Oregon. So I spent all of my high school years, except for 1 year, my great school years, except for 1 year, they literally left and moved back to Oregon, to Eastern Oregon. And then, so that, knowing family roots and knowing siblings, what they've done, who succeeded, who it took a little longer to succeed. I feel really proud of being a Black woman and being able to, first of all, start a business in Manhattan, New York, self-employed, and then to be able to relocate it to Eugene, Oregon. People tell me you need to give yourself more credit because I'm just a worker. I'm a true Sagittarius. I will fall over and I will drag myself back up to get it going in the Let's Move business. And I just have to tell you all about the Healthy Moves, which is the nonprofit. The Obamas came along, and this is what's probably part of how Healthy Moves, the nonprofit, got started. Mrs. Obama took my business name for the National Childhood Obesity Campaign, Let's Move. And we're waiting to hear about all this campaign, and all of a sudden I came home and my husband at the time said, "Oh, Mrs. Obama released the name of her campaign." I'm like, "What is it?" "I'm not going to tell you. Guess." And I said, "What?" And he said, "Let's Move." And I was like, "That's my name." My lawyer came back and said, "Well, you never trademarked it back in 1988. Who thought? I was just wanting to start a business, something that I love. Let's move. People should move. People should have. And one of the other things is, now that I'm older, people of color should move. People of color should be active and healthy and well. So that's something, and people who are physically challenged. So that's something that has moved over. So that is how Healthy Moves came along, because I didn't want to tie my business name into the nonprofit. And what really happened is we found out we don't have full-time PE teachers in our elementary schools in our Lane County. And then we find out we really don't have them nationwide. So that's how Healthy Moves started. So knowing, and I think Mrs. Obama, another strong Black woman, gave me a little push, because it was like, wait, you took my name. So what am I going to do? I'm going to get involved in your national campaign and set my stage to do better for our classroom teachers and our kids in elementary school. So as a Black woman, I can't say if it's been difficult at times, because I'm self-employed. I have myself. It's been difficult as a Black person. But like I said, I love what I do. And I research and I've trained and I mentor. So I'm really proud to be a Black woman who started a business in New York City and then relocated it to Eugene, Oregon. And it's successful. 33 years. I've been in business for 33 years. So and then to start a nonprofit on top of it. Because I was trying to, Davin was talking about Instagram and digital. I was at the time trying to stay in contact with my clients in New York City. So we were actually ahead of the game. We were already looking at how to do videos, all that digital stuff. And all of a sudden, boom, nonprofit came along. So, and now, with COVID, what am I doing? Online. I got people from all across the country taking my class here from Eugene, but from Oakland, from New York, Kentucky. So it's kind of a full circle. So yeah, very proud to have started my business, and it's still successful.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. So I think one last question, Ms. Thomas kind of touched on it just now, kind of jumping into the COVID topic. So something that we were kind of wondering is, just since March of 2020, obviously that was almost a year ago at this point, how has your businesses been impacted, and what lessons have you learned as a result of the pandemic?
I'll go. By the way, I have like over 30 plants in my house, and yeah, I love plants. And honestly, I actually want to ask if I can DM you and pick your brain and ask you some questions, if that's okay, Davin. But COVID blew my stuff up. I'm not gonna even lie to you guys. And then the Black Lives Matter movement, that went crazy. I went to sleep and I woke up and I made like $5,000 in a night, and I was just kind of like, what the heck? You know what I'm saying? Because we make everything like from scratch. Like we hand make everything. And at the time it was just, Tasia. Um, and so I hired her on and I was like, we have to go overtime. Like we didn't sleep. We were just working, 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 working. And it was a beautiful thing, a beautiful thing. But at the same time, it was like, whoa. So what I learned was when it comes to I learned that I want to grow with my business in the healthiest way, because what we were doing in the hours we were spending making stuff was not healthy. My mental was bad. I felt very much so grateful, but still stressed. I've never been so stressed in my life. But I would love to grow with my business in a healthy way. That's what I learned. And then also just being prepared. Like maybe one day, because I have two celebrity customers on the Body Love Vital team, and say one day, my products get in Meg the Stallion's hands. I don't know. For some reason, I feel like we would be great friends. But and we blow up, like I want to be prepared. So I learned that like with my business, I need to always be working on my business. So innovating it, always thinking of how, if we do get these orders, like how are we going to maintain that? So whether that's like, instead of spending my money here, I'm going to always spend my money on like growing a part of my business. So like my machinery, always keeping tabs on like just the movement of the industry, because what I do, like we cook products. And so I like keep up with like cooking stuff and like what's the best, most efficient way to like make our products. And from there, I had this little hand mixer and then all of this stuff. And I was just looking at Tasia, like, we need big equipment. So we ended up buying a $2,000 huge mixing machine, and we spent 5 hours to making body butter to 2. So like knowing that we can invest our money into something super expensive, but it's going to save us so much more time, which is going to allow us to save more money and time long term. So always thinking long term. Obviously short term is very important day by day, but always thinking big and not being intimidated by growth, because I was nervous. I'm like, do I just tell everyone we sold out? Like, I was intimidated. I just like, I don't know what to do. But we made it happen. We got all our orders off. We did sell out of a lot of products, but we were able to like restock that next week. So COVID was a blessing for us. And we were all online anyway after, I told you guys my story. So I would say always making sure that if things happen like this again, we have everything in place. And we were just blessed enough that it didn't hit us in a certain way, because I was actually supposed to be going into a store. And my mom was like so pissed at me because I didn't want to go into it. And I just told her, I said, Mom, like God is literally telling me, like, do not go in the store. And this was 2 months before like COVID hit. And it was crazy because I was like, I trusted my gut and my intuition. And I had my mom, who I looked up to the most, like, why would you not do that? And I was like, I don't know, but like it's no, like I can't. And then COVID hit, and I would have had to pay $20,000 up front to create the store that I wanted. And it was already in place. And I already told the lady yes. And then I had to, make that phone call. And then her store ended up shutting down. So it was crazy. But yeah, COVID was a blessing for Body Love Vital.
I would say, COVID for me was, it was weird because at first I didn't understand like what was happening at all. And all of our factories were shut down. Like the place that dyes my fabric, the guy that owns the dye house, he actually passed away due to COVID. And it was, I don't know, it's been really crazy. Like this whole last year, it's just been nuts. But the first few months, it was actually a blessing to me as well, because I'm, as Miss Thomas said, I'm a Sagittarius as well, and I put everything into everything that I do, and so that's a really big gift and a curse, because I'll push myself to the brink of destruction. And so I think we had a span where we did pop-ups. Like, we did a pop-up in a different city every month for like 9 months straight. And March, we did a pop-up in DC. And when I was leaving the pop-up, I had like I don't know if it was a panic attack or what it was, but I had just like pushed myself so hard for so long that I like had a panic attack in the car and was freaking out. And so the next week was really when like COVID got to the point where everything was just shut down. And so to me, it was a blessing because it forced me to sit down. I couldn't go to the factories. I couldn't have pop-up shops. I couldn't take meetings. And so it really forced me to sit down and like focus on my mental health. And then also, since the factories were closed, it really gave me a time to get back to just focusing on design and having fun with that. I get so wrapped up in this meeting, or I have a, a call with this lawyer, or I have this and that, and it really takes away from doing the part that I love most, which is creating. And so since everything was shut down, it really gave me a good 2 months to just lock in and just focus on designing. And at first we were kind of uneasy about even releasing product once we could open back up, like the factories, because we just weren't sure. We just weren't sure because people weren't working. We didn't know how people's paychecks were. Like, we didn't even know if people had money to spend on clothing. But what we realized is once we did release, people were just waiting on something to buy because they were just at home, sitting on their phones pretty much all day, looking on Instagram. And we probably had our most successful month. I think our first release during COVID was in May, like May 5th or something. And that was like our most successful release ever. But luckily, I used that time to really just build up a catalog of designs, because I knew that once things did open back up, I wasn't going to have that free time to put into the designs. And I mean, I am the creative for Diet Starts Monday. So if I'm not designing, or if I don't have designs, we just don't have anything new to put out. So it's weird for something so like devastating to be looked at as a blessing, but in terms of my mental health and also our business health, like it was the biggest blessing for us.
All right, I'm gonna chime in real quick and say something real quick. I can't go without giving credit for the inspiration behind this event to Alexa. Alexa has been a student athlete, a business owner, and a full-time, student, keeping up with her academics. And one day we was meeting during a coaching session, and we just talked about, her business and what she wanted to do. And I said, well, Alexa, Black History Month is coming up. How about we get some entrepreneurs who have, experienced those highs and lows of starting a business, and, let's put together an event. So she took it, she ran with it. And I even shared the story about Davin. Davin probably doesn't know this, but when we was at Western, and I was in a fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi, okay, so that's yo to the noose. But anyway, we needed shirts for an event, and Davin was the guy on campus who was just talented, just straight talented, and a good dude at that. So you add that on top of being extremely talented, and Davin was the go-to for us to get shirts. And I still have my shirt that he designed, 12 years ago, however long that was. But I just remember how hard Davin would work. I mean, constant orders on campus and everything. And, you would see him across campus, and Davin was just, just a good person. So I told Alexa, I said, man, Davin was a dude. I don't know much about, business, retail, art, everything. I said, but if you need an example of someone who worked hard and they've reached that level of success, I said, Davin is that guy. So we talked about that. Fast forward, Davin was kind enough to be a part of this event. And you think about what Davin has on his plate, signing deals with Puma and others. He's pretty humble. He hadn't mentioned any of that, but that's just a level of what hard work can get you. And so I appreciate you all being here. Ms. Thomas, I have 3 daughters. They will be taking part in your dance classes, your activities. They absolutely love the move, and we're going to be supporting. And Natalia, your products, I have a 5-6-month-old who scratches her stomach quite a bit. So I was just thinking about that as you was going through kind of your story. So I'm grateful for you all being here and taking part in this event. I think our students have taken a lot of jewels and a lot of gems back that they can apply to their lives. And Mr. Reeves sharing the fundamentals of starting a business. And he helped us kind of orchestrate this when Alexa and I had raw ideas kind of just floating out there. He helped kind of assemble and get things together. And then the Multicultural Center staff and Imani, thank you all for helping put this together. This will be recorded and shared with students, and they have a lot of good info. So I had to get that in before you all wrap up. So I won't say any more.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you very much.
Yes, same. And just everybody that's in the classroom, I'm more than like, if you guys ever want to schedule a phone call with me, DM me, or just like want to talk about anything, I'm here for you, because people were there for me. And I didn't get to where I was by myself. And so if you guys ever need me, I won't give you information on what I don't know. I'll tell you I don't know, but I will give you a person that does know it. So you guys are more than welcome to contact me at any time. Alexa, you as well. You're so gorgeous, and I love your spirit. And thank you so much for inviting me here. Mani as well. I love you guys.
No, honestly, thank you guys all, because without you guys here, like, this event would be nothing, but you guys definitely helped out a lot and shared some really great tips and just inspired me a lot, and hope everybody else got really inspired. Just go be out there and become your own boss. And not really Mr. Reeves, but yeah, pretty much your own boss, make all the decisions. But thank you guys for coming to this event. Just a few announcements. If you have not already, go ahead and follow us on Instagram at UOFinWellness. And this is the one where you guys rushed and tried to get a prize, but you guys can still follow. And also there should be like a Google form link. Here it is. This is another way you guys can enter to win more prizes if you missed out on any of our activities that were going on earlier. So I'm going to drop the link and send it to everybody. You fill that out and you're already automatically entered to win a few gifts. Oh, and here's the feedback form from tonight's event. Let us know how you enjoyed it, just feedback and what we can do to make every future event even better.